Hey guys, Cam for 15 back at another video for you guys, and I'm recording this video late at night, and it's just kind of my thoughts and stuff with what's been going on. Um, it's 10:16 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and essentially before, I call it a night today, I just wanted to just again make this video. I already made my Bears game recap video about the Ravens. So if you want my thoughts about the Ravens game and everything, there it is. But long story short, look, the team did not come out prepared to play. Um, in all honesty, I think that's just, on the head coach. We didn't run the ball enough, and the coach, I believe, didn't do a good enough play calling, which, you know it made your quarterback look bad today. Made the offense look bad today. The offense didn't help themselves. But again, I thought the team didn't come out with any energy. They didn't come prepared to play, especially they didn't come prepared to play against a team that they damn well know was desperate to try to get a win to save their season. And it was clear that the Ravens definitely wanted this game more than the Bears did. And I guess you can say the players kind of, maybe came into this game lackadaisical, thinking like, oh no, Lamar Jackson, we should win this game. And they forgot, like, regardless of how just because they're gone, their MVP player doesn't mean that's still a quality opponent down there. Again, they wanted it more. But obviously, after the game, and even in some bits during the game, the discourse has obviously been around the Bears quarterback, Caleb Williams. And again, like uh, I said in my recap, like I thought he played okay. There were some good things he did. And yes, there are some bad things he definitely still needs to improve at. But for me, I'm not done with him. I'm not giving up on him. I'm not quitting on him for another quarterback. And I said in my game recap, like, look, if it continues to persist week after week after week after week after week after week, and we're getting to the tail end of the season, you're still seeing no improvement, and stuff like that. And then you even get into next season and the first couple of games, you're still seeing the same old, no improvement from him. That's when you'll know he is not the guy that we all thought he was, and that is not the guy that we definitely drafted. And honestly, if you ask me, it would be very much clear that the following season, I would then hope Ryan Poles gets fired. Ben Johnson has his own GM, and Ben Johnson and his own GM pick up the next quarterback in more than likely next year's draft. And honestly, I would just have it to where you keep Caleb Williams for that final season. Have that rookie quarterback if you do draft it. In I believe it would be 2027 or something like that, right? Sitting behind him for a year and then learning Ben Jones' offense, and then you move on from there, right? But I'm not going to give up on Caleb Williams because he's had, back-to-back games where he hasn't played the best. Now, I do think he played a little bit better than he did in the Saints game. But you have people on social media that essentially are just done with him. From the tweets I was seeing on social media, it looks like most Bear fans are more than likely done with him, and they're trying to misconstrue their words, and they're going to try to say, no, 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 I didn't mean that. Look, he has to play better. You got to hold him accountable. You just can't be defending him all the time and everything. But I'm looking throughout the game when the game's going on. You're talking about how bad he's playing and how this is it. It's over. It's done. You know, and I honestly find it fairly laughable that 7 games into his second season, he's in a new offense. He's learning what people say, the reports say, is a complex offense, and people are ready to give up on him. Look, I knew going into this season it wasn't going to be perfect. And I knew, like, not everything is going to be perfect. I know there's going to be bumps across the road. And I even said that when we drafted him back last year. I said, look, man, just because he's the first overall pick, it's going to take some time. He's going to have to develop. The Bears are going to have to put him in the best position to succeed. And clearly the Bears started him off on the wrong foot, right? But, for the fact that some people have thrown this dude away like if he's nothing. It's like, people are using excuses of like, well, he hasn't had a good game or anything, when in the past, not only this time, obviously this year, there's a few games even last year where you can make the case he had good games out there. And people who are saying he hasn't had a good game, they're just lying to you because they're trying to fit their narrative. They're trying to fit whatever the narrative is, whether they're a narrative about the Justin Fields thing and the fact that they feel like the team should have kept Justin Fields, or the whole narrative, the fact that I wanted Caleb, but I have to admit he ain't playing good football, and now it's not looking good, and I think we may need to make a change and something needs to be different. Listen, guys, I find it absolutely hilarious how people want to go to Tyson Bagent. And I only said the only way you go to Tyson Bagent is if Caleb Williams is injured or Ben Johnson feels he is not playing good at all. Like under any circumstances, he's not playing good and he feels like, okay, I think it's best you take a seat, you sit down, you learn, and you understand and you really see the game from the sideline, right? But again, for people clamoring for Tyson Bagent, like these people think Tyson Bagent can come in and fix everything. Like they think he can come in, fix everything, and then the offense will be humming. We played Tyson Bagent before, and we've seen how Tyson Bagent does against NFL starting caliber, talent. He's okay, but he hasn't done anything in his starts that knocks your socks off. I've seen games where Tyson Bagent has played, and he didn't do much of anything special. Like, remember a few years ago when he played the Saints in the Superdome? He didn't really do anything special in that game. He had a pretty bad game that game. And the fact that you have people out there clamoring, like, you know what? Frick it, I don't care, man. They're in Tyson Bagent. Like, you think like Tyson Bagent is going to come in here and fix everything. Like he's going to like you do you really believe Tyson Bagent is going to be the guy that is going to be the reason why the offensive line or the tight ends stop jumping off sides and getting false start penalties? Is Tyson Bagent going to be the reason the Bears just stop getting penalties in general? Is Tyson Bagent going to be the reason why the offensive line actually blocks? Is Tyson Bagent going to be the reason Theo Benedict can block a defensive end opposite of him to make sure he's not getting hits on him? There's only so much things the quarterback can control. You know, a- and again, the penalty stuff. It still frustrates me to the point that the coaching staff has been harping on the penalties since basically OTAs, and the penalties are still here. And it shows you that they are a very undisciplined team. Now, yes, some of the penalties, again, the penalties are a reflection of the head coach. But I do 100% believe Ben Johnson is going to these practices harping on these players. Hey, you guys got to stop jump doing this. And I think the only way you can set the example is if you just start benching dudes. Like, just start benching dudes and make them realize you can't cause this, otherwise you're going to lose your job. You know? But people are out there clamoring for Tyson Bagent because they're supposedly done with Caleb Williams, and I'm over here just looking, and I'm just like, dude, you guys act like the dude went like 5 for 23 and 94 passing yards, or barely getting 100 passing yards and 3 interceptions with the way, people are talking about him on social media. And it's absolutely funny. Like, okay, I can expect it from like the people that were pro Justin Fields to be haters on him and never give him a shot. But, on the timeline, I'm seeing it come from people that wanted Caleb Williams and were begging the Bears to draft Caleb Williams. And these are the same people that are still going on record talking like, well, the move was to go draft Caleb Williams, right? Yes, we know if Caleb Williams does not pan out, it sets the franchise back more years. And it really does show you to go to prove, like, okay, then, they messed up another fucking quarterback because the so and so GM, he decided to get this quarterback and leave him with a deadbeat head coach, get him off the wrong start. But you get my point. Like, look, I'm not defending Caleb Williams, like crazy. I do agree. He needs to improve. The accuracy issues have to be better. As of late, the decision making has to be better. He can't be throwing interceptions, especially in critical situations. You see, because we played a bad team in the Saints, right? You were able to get away with bad quarterback play. But against a team that has been in the playoffs, that is a mentally strong team, that has been there and done that, and they can prove it in the Ravens, of course, you don't have the best quarterback play, you're more than likely going to lose games. And I said in my game recap, I do believe just only getting 6 points changed that game because if you get touchdowns and you make it 14-0, then you severely affect how the Ravens may call. Maybe they don't run as much. Maybe they do force Tyler Huntley to pass the ball and they become one-dimensional to the point, okay, we can start sending blitzes at this dude and maybe we can start get the dogs home. And again, like I said, maybe it demoralized the Ravens to think, oh shit, here we go, where there's no shot. There's no shot. But that's the whole thing. At the end of the day, also too, like players got to step up. Caleb Williams, yes, he has to step up, but other players have to bail him out. How many times have we said we see Caleb Williams find a way and make something out of nothing? He throws to Roma Dunze, and Roma Dunze is dropping a pass. Like, I see more people holding Caleb Williams to a crazy, insane fucking standard, but I don't see us holding our number one, our number nine drafted wide receiver we drafted in the top 10 last year to a high standard. I don't see as much negativity about Rome Odunze as I see the negativity about Caleb Williams, right? I don't see that negativity. The dude every week now is having these one moments where it's a catchable ball. He drops the shit out of the ball. I don't see the timeline blowing up because of that, but Lord have mercy, Caleb Williams doesn't play a good game. Oh my goodness, the world's falling. And I think with the fact that the way the Bears lost today, it also adds to the fact that I think why Bear fans are freaking out. And I saw a perfect tweet, I think by Ill Will, right? And he basically mentioned, in long short story form, basically said, bro, the Bears lose one game after a 4-game win streak, and then Bear fans are treating it as the sky is falling and everything's completely shit and the season's over as if we're like fucking 3-11 and stuff like that. You know, but again, you got Bear fans complaining about Caleb Williams, bitching about how his play's been, and and everything. And you have the audacity of people already giving up on him, saying it's over. I've seen enough. We now know who he is. And for people who feel like that, you're entitled to feel that way you want to feel. If you feel like Caleb Williams ain't the guy, hey, more power to you. You can feel that way. But the fact that you are going to give up on somebody that, yes, he has around, I think, 22, 24 starts in his NFL career. Again, context is key. He's learning his third system in basically 3, 4 years. You know, USC, then the Shane Waldron offense, and now the Ben Johnson offense. In all honesty, if you ask me, it's pretty tough, especially for a young quarterback. He's got to learn a lot, you know? Again, like I said, he does have to play better. He does have to play better. But again, like I said, he can only control what he can control. It's not his fault his offensive linemen or his tight ends are jumping off sides and getting false starts. It's not his fault that his play caller, for whatever reason, he play calls as if maybe he don't trust him enough, or he play calls, he makes certain play calls that affects drives when we have something going. It's I put more blame on Ben Johnson for the way we lost this game just strictly from his play calls offensively. I thought he gave up on the run too much, and he went away from what he did the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks against the Commanders and Saints, he ran the football, and it did open the passing game to an extent. I do think, early on we ran the ball good, and then for whatever reason, because we were only down like 7-6, we went away from that. And then again, Ben Johnson play calling in certain moments, they can be a little bit too predictable. The screen plays. One, it's predictableness, and then two, it's just not the receivers on the outside blocking good enough. Like that one screen to, I think it was Luther Burden or something like that. So, Rome Odunze, he's not blocking. He lets it go right past him, and it leads to a loss behind yards. You know, the coach is the one that keeps running DJ Moore out of the backfield. You think Caleb Williams can change that? You what? You want him to audible the play and just be like, let's make it a passing play then, because we don't trust Rome Odunze, we don't trust DJ Moore to be a running back. You know, there's only so many things he can control. The injuries. You think Caleb Williams is at fault for all the injuries that the Bears are getting? No. And at the same time, Bear fans have to be patient. I get it. Bear fans want instant gratification. They want, results. And that's fine. Yes, I want results as a fan because I've been seeing mediocre quarterback play for years. But I'm not going to give up on a dude that, yes, he hasn't played good football as of late, but it's something to where I'm not pulling my hair out and everything because I know, okay, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. And I hope, as the weeks progress, he gets better. And mostly all the quarterback people are saying, like, look, dude, yes, it's not pretty, and Caleb Williams got to play better, but you got to look at the big picture. There are some improvements there, but at the same time, there are things he can do to get better. Again, the big run he had near the tail end of the half, right? He needs to learn, hey, man, it's 2 minute period. Get out of bounds at any cost necessary, right? But he slid, and the Bears had to burn a timeout because of it. I think it had a brain fart moment. That can't happen. The intentional groundings. I understand you don't want to take the sack, but maybe it's just better just to take the sack or you just throw the ball away to the vicinity of the nearest receiver. You know, for that 1 second intentional grounding, right? It's clear that Colson Loveland, I don't think he knew what he was doing. For whatever reason, he decided to cut in as opposed to out because according to the press conference, it was a choice route. I don't know why Colson Loveland decided to cut in when he should be cutting out. It's 2 minute period, right? You should be going out because you catch the ball in stride, you get out of bounds, you preserve your timeouts. But he cut in. Why he chose to do that, I have no idea. But I would hope the coaching staff goes to him in the film room and say, hey man, it's 2 minute period. You want the ball thrown to you, you got to get outside and get out of bounds. You always go out. And I think that was where Caleb Williams was expecting. Colson Loveland to do an out route. He throws to him, boom. Colson Loveland catches it, gets out of bounds. But Colson Loveland running is for that miscommunication there, is that on Caleb Williams? I think that's more on Colson Loveland. He needs to understand the situation. You got one timeout, you're in a 2 minute period, you're trying to at least get a field goal, right? You don't cut into the middle of the field, you cut out to it because you're trying to get to the boundaries, you're trying to get to the out of bounds to keep some more time and maybe get closer to a field goal. Is it Caleb Williams' fault that Cairo Santos missed a 58-yard field goal and he don't have the leg to kick deep field goals? No, that's not on him. The least Caleb can do is get him in good enough field goal range to be able to give him a chance to kick it. It's not Caleb Williams' fault. He's not the kicker, but you have people complaining about Caleb Williams already done with him after these games. And I think if you're gonna feel like that, fine. Well then don't when whoever the next quarterback is, you better be willing to show him. You better be willing to give up on him after year one. So if we were to draft a quarterback and he doesn't play at all, then that means, and that's telling me from the way you're talking about Caleb, if we do end up somehow doing, if it doesn't work out and we do draft another quarterback, well then that tells me if he's sitting on the bench, that means he's a bust and he's already done, according to your logic. And it's funny that some of these people, they're probably the same people that were willing to give Justin Fields 3 years. They were probably the same people to give Mitch Trubisky 3, 4 years to see if he's got it. And with Caleb Williams, oh, it's no, he's got to be done after 2 years and 2 years and 7 games into his second season under a new play caller. Like, do you people understand the reason why Ben Johnson came here? He came here because of the quarterback. Look, I get it. Jaden Daniels, last year he played really good, but this year he's not playing good. He's playing average at best. This year, Drake May, early to start on the year, he had his struggles, but obviously, it seems like he's found himself, and he's moving forward in the direction he's going, right? And that's all good. That's props to Drake May. That's props to the Patriots coaching staff, um, for having been prepared. But I also chalk that up to Josh McDaniels being a really damn good offensive coordinator. And Ben Johnson is a damn good offensive coordinator himself. But, he's got to man the entire operation, right? And again, Drake May is doing a good thing. He's doing what typically happens with second year quarterbacks. He's taking the next jump. But, you look at the teams the Patriots are playing, they're playing, let's just be honest, a four-play schedule against bad teams. And look, Drake May got hot later in that game, but listen, he struggled early on in that game. I know Bo Nix is playing good, but look, last week against the Giants for 3 quarters, he played bad football. Played bad football. And then obviously because the Giants defense let up, he played good football in that fourth quarter and he made some plays. But, you know, Bear fans are looking at that and looking at other teams and they're just like, no, 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 this can't happen. Boo, he hasn't improved. And again, in my opinion, you want to give up on him? Fine. That's your opinion. But I'm not ready to give up on Caleb Williams after 7 games and then 2 games he's just not been played bad. I think that's just the typical narrative you're going to see on social media that's going to skew your opinion. Like, okay, he may struggle now, but, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, um, Daniel Jones, they struggled in their places, and guess what happened? They ended up going elsewhere, and they ended up becoming really good quarterbacks now. Who's to say the same can't happen for Caleb Williams? Josh Allen, his first couple of seasons, he didn't play good. His first couple of seasons, he was not the Josh Allen we saw or we see today. He struggled, and I bet you there were more than likely Bill fans that were wanting to give up on Josh Allen and think, oh, he ain't good. And now guess what? He's a league MVP and he's a franchise quarterback. See, I think people got into the mode of thinking, oh, he's this generational talent because Bear fans labeled him as that. Some of the members of the media labeled him as that. All we need Caleb Williams to be is the franchise quarterback of the Bears. And I think he's had some improvements this year as opposed to last year. I think he's had an okay season. Yes, are there things he needs to work on? Yes. I'm not going to take away. He needs to be better. The turnovers can't happen. The inaccuracy can't happen. But I think some Bear fans are just being overreactionary to certain things, and they're just wanting to want change because, oh, Lord have mercy, our quarterback is struggling because for whatever reason they think this team is a playoff team. Guess what? We're not a playoff team. Yes, the Vikings game was a winnable game. Yes, this game was a winnable game. But guess what, guys? We're not a playoff team. Can you look at that defense with the injuries they got and the lack thereof of a pass rush? We're not we're not a playoff team. And again, you add in the offensive struggles with them and the penalties and stuff like that, it's clear. Ben Johnson said in his press conference last week, he's like, look, good teams are teams that don't get penalized a lot. And look, we're not a good team because we get penalized a lot. We're an okay team, but you know, we're not great or we're not good. And I did say like the Bears will either have 8 or 9 wins, and I think we'll come up short with the playoffs. That should be the goal at the end of the day. One, yes, Caleb Williams on a week-to-week basis has to play better, and we see the growth there, right? But the thing is, the whole thing is, we knew it would take a year for this offense to gel and for this offense to get full, complete control, and for the quarterback to understand and get better within the offense. But you have Bear fans willing to give up on him after 7 games and want to make a change at quarterback because they think Tyson Bagent is the fucking answer. Okay, then. And if Tyson Bagent ever gets an opportunity to be the starter and he doesn't play well, well, then I hope the same people that were criticizing Caleb Williams and saying they're done with him, hopefully they make the case to say they come out and say, and they hold Tyson Bagent to the same standard if he ever gets an opportunity to start. And that is strictly the whole thing of, okay, hold his ass accountable. Oh, he's missing throws. Oh, he's not completing it to the check down. He's not doing this. He's not throwing the ball down the field. He's turning the ball over. Have that same exact energy for Tyson Bagent if he ever gets that opportunity down the road. But that's just me. But I thought I'd just make this video. I know I may get some comments on this video where some comments will probably be highly disagreeing. And there'll be some comments saying, stop defending him. You need to call it is. Again, I said again, he needs to play better. But, you can say he needs to play better and he had an okay bad game. But at the same time, just going out there and saying you need to give up on him. Again, let's go to the whole Baker Mayfield and, Sam Darnold and um, Daniel Jones. Now, for the Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold stuff, they were just in bad organizations. I do think for Cleveland, you can make the case because with Cleveland, Baker Mayfield at least got to the playoffs with the Browns at some point in his tenure there. I just think the Browns gave up on him because they blamed him for all the issues there when there's just other issues going on there and they didn't support him good enough to do that, right? And I think at the time because they had Odell there, I think it was more the Odell camp blaming him, and that's kind of what forced him out of town, right? But I bet you Kevin Stefanski now looking at Baker Mayfield now is like, damn, I wish I had Baker Mayfield now, you know? So that's just my thoughts. That's just my thoughts. Um, if you feel if you feel that way, you're entitled to your opinion. You can feel that way. I disagree. I say let's give him a full year and a few games into his third year, which will be his second year in the offense. That's when I truly 100% believe now he needs to start playing and living up to the expectations he's been gifted. And if he isn't, well, then guess what? We got a problem. And you may have to start looking in, the draft for whenever that time comes, or maybe you look at a free agent, and maybe you bring them in for competition. I don't know. But I'm just saying, let's not give up on Caleb Williams. Yes, he played a bad game today against the Baltimore Ravens. He does need to improve. But I'm not freaking out like other Bear fans are freaking out. And like I said, some of these fans were willing to give patience to the last two quarterbacks and give them 3, 4 years. And the moment Caleb Williams gets here, those same people, especially the pro one Caleb ones who were saying like, "Oh, I'm done with him." When we first got him, they preached, "Look, patience. It's going to be a while. Let's preach the patience." 1 year later, 7 games in, they're already wanting to be done with the cat. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm just gonna get out of here, guys. If you guys like the video, leave a like. Put in the comment section your thoughts. Do you think some Bear fans are overreacting? Do you think Caleb Williams has proved everything he needs to prove? If that's your thought, that's your thought. I'm not gonna hate on you for it, but that's your thoughts. But I just say, okay, then keep the same energy for whoever the next quarterback, if we do have the next quarterback come in. And at the same time, if Caleb Williams does succeed, I don't want to see people jumping on the bandwagon acting like, oh, I knew this would be the good thing to happen. We've already seen instances with Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield that they can play good. You got to give it some time. You got to be patient, you know? So that's the thing there. But anyways, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Catch you guys in the next video. Till then, guys, stay safe out there. Have a great rest of your day or your night or enjoy this video, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.